So today, let's talk about the ceasefire, because I've been flooded with questions. People are excited. They're saying, Professor Jiang, the war is over. Trump announced a peace deal. Iran is negotiating in Pakistan. Maybe you were wrong. Maybe America wins after all. My answer? No. The ceasefire is a lie. The war never stopped. And I'm going to show you exactly why using game theory, historical patterns, and the real structure of power. Because what you see on the news isn't what's actually happening behind the scenes. Let's start with what Trump actually announced. A 2-week pause. America and Iran will meet in Pakistan to negotiate a long-term ceasefire. And here's the kicker. He said he'd use Iran's own 10-point plan as the framework. So what's in that plan? Point 1. The U.S. guarantees never to attack Iran again. Point 2. Iran gets full control over the Strait of Hormuz. Point 3. Iran can enrich uranium for its nuclear program. Point 4. All sanctions on Iran are removed, every single one, including UN resolutions and IAEA measures. Point 5. Reparations from the US and Israel for damage to Iran. Point 6. Full withdrawal of all US combat forces from the Middle East. Point 7. And this is huge. The US also ends hostilities against all of Iran's allies, including Hezbollah and the Houthis. Now ask yourself, if you offered to pay $1,000 for something that costs $100, and the seller immediately says yes, what would you think? You'd think something is deeply wrong. Nobody accepts a deal that's one-sided unless they're not serious. Trump is using Iran's maximum demands as the starting point. That tells you this isn't peace, it's theater. A distraction. So what's it distracting from? Look at the ground. At the same time, the USS George Bush, a full aircraft carrier, is heading to the Middle East. More troops, more planes, more artillery. The military buildup is accelerating, not stopping. America is buying time to get forces into position. Then, once ready, the war resumes, likely with an Israeli provocation, giving America the excuse to escalate. That's reason number 1. The ceasefire is a lie, cover for military preparation. Reason number 2 is more interesting. Iran uses something called the mosaic defense. They've turned each of their 31 provinces into an independent military cell, its own strategy, weapons, command. No orders needed from Tehran. Think of it like a dead man's switch. Even if you kill the Ayatollah, all 31 cells keep fighting automatically. So when Iran's political leadership says ceasefire, they'd have to convince 31 independent commanders who don't trust America. Those commanders will say, no, we keep fighting. For Iran to enforce a ceasefire, its government would have to fight its own army a civil war. That's not happening. The mosaic defense was designed so this war ends only 2 ways. Iran is completely destroyed, or America is defeated and leaves. No middle ground. No real ceasefire. Reason number 3. Even the people signing the deal don't believe in it. The ink was barely dry when Israel launched over 100 strikes across Lebanon in 10 minutes, 250 people killed during a ceasefire. Iran's condition was that the deal includes its allies like Hezbollah. After the bombing, Vice President J.D. Vance called it a misunderstanding. You announce a major ceasefire and didn't even agree on who it covers? That's not serious. Israel bombed Lebanon to send a message. We'll destroy your allies no matter what you sign. America stood back and called it a misunderstanding. This is a trap. Iran defends Hezbollah. America says Iran broke the deal. And the war resumes with Iran blamed. Same pattern as the JCPOA nuclear deal. Same as the first 12-day war. Make a deal, break it, blame Iran, escalate. So why all this theater? Because both sides are losing control. America had a plan. Bomb Iran, destroy its nuclear program, force surrender. But Iran fought back harder. The Strait of Hormuz closed. Oil prices spiked. U.S. bases got hit. Now you have 2 factions inside Washington. The Pentagon wants to escalate with ground troops. Trump wants an exit because a ground invasion is political suicide. So you get a confused ceasefire reel only in press releases while the military keeps moving. On Iran's side, political leadership wants to negotiate because the economy is bleeding. But the IRGC commanders in those 31 provinces believe they're winning. They won't stop. Both sides are split, and that split is dangerous. Now Trump people ask, is he stupid or a genius? Yes, he doesn't understand the mosaic defense or game theory. But he is a genius at one thing: unpredictability. It paralyzes opponents. You never know if he'll bomb today or announce a ceasefire tomorrow. It distracts while you're watching Trump's show. You miss the USS George Bush sailing toward the Persian Gulf. And it gives him flexibility. He can change course without losing face. The ceasefire isn't stupidity. It's Trump creating noise and cover while real moves happen in the background. And here's the most dangerous part for everyone else. The moment Trump announced the ceasefire, oil prices dropped and stock markets recovered. That relief was the point. Markets were panicking, and Trump needed to stop the bleeding. But nothing has actually changed. The Strait of Hormuz is still effectively controlled by Iran. Supply chains are still disrupted. That price relief will last maybe 2 weeks. Then markets realize the ground hasn't shifted and prices go back up. Iran's real strategy is to make the cost of this war economically and politically unsustainable. Time is on Iran's side. So here's the complete picture. Trump announces a ceasefire to calm markets, buy time for military positioning, and set a trap. Israel immediately bombs Lebanon because Israel doesn't want a ceasefire. It wants America fully committed to destroying Iran. Iran faces an impossible choice: abandon Hezbollah, politically impossible, or defend them and get blamed for breaking the deal. The Mosaic defense means even if Iran's leaders wanted peace, the military wouldn't stop. So the war continues. The global economy keeps bleeding: oil shortages, fertilizer crises, pressure building. Eventually, not today, not next week, but eventually that pressure forces a real reckoning. Not a fake ceasefire, a real settlement on Iran's terms, because Iran has escalation dominance, time, and a military that won't stop. The ceasefire is a narrative move, the system, telling a story that everything is under control. But when oil hits $200 a barrel and food becomes scarce, that story breaks down. People stop believing. And when they stop believing, the whole system comes under threat. That's what Iran understands. No dramatic announcement changes the underlying reality. The war is continuing. The Mosaic defense is active. The strait is effectively closed. The ceasefire is a lie not because I say so, but because the structure of this conflict makes a real ceasefire impossible right now. America can't accept Iran's 10-point plan, that surrender. Iran can't abandon its allies or its military. Israel won't accept an intact Iran. So the war continues. Eventually, America will be forced to find an exit not on its terms, but on Iran's. That's where game theory points. That's what history shows when an empire overextends into a war it cannot win. The ceasefire is theater. The war never stopped, and the truth is not always in front of you. Sometimes you have to look behind the curtain,